Welcome back, fellas. Today we're ranking the second era of Godzilla, the Heisei Era.
Finally, something to take my mind off that shit show fancy get-together. I can't believe they banned us for life. I didn't think they could do that.
Donald, that wasn't fancy. You took us to a fucking Taco Bell down the road from Mar-a-Lago.
Pretty much the same thing.
It really isn't.
Sup, boys? We continuing the tier list?
That we are, Joe.
The Heisei Era, the most consistent era of Godzilla in terms of monster design, action, and story.
Donald J. Trump, the most consistent president in terms of failures, bad speeches, and crimes.
Oh, you've done it now, you raggedy pincushion.
Save the cat fights for after the tier list, please.
Speaking of cat fights, how's your wife, Donald?
Don't even get me started on that.
It was a fucking Taco Bell, not Hell's Kitchen. And Melania didn't even show up to the get-together with our wives.
We've both been so busy lately that we haven't had much time for each other. I called, but she didn't answer.
Too busy practicing for your vacation to Rikers Island.
Joe, I say this from the bottom of my heart. I hope there's a spider in your coffee tomorrow.
And on that note, I think now's a good time for me to step in and tell both of you to shut the hell up.
Return of Godzilla. A perfect fresh start for the king of the monsters. Bringing him back to his nuclear roots, but instead of the bombings, you have Cold War tensions.
Getting rid of all the continuity from the Showa era and having a direct sequel to the original 1954 film was definitely the way to go to bring back the original audience Godzilla was meant for.
Some of the horror elements in this film work really well and have a genuine impact, though some other do fall flat.
The human characters are also pretty good, but it's the Prime Minister who really steals the show with his simple acting. His ability to show the stress of Japan being caught between two superpowers is really effective.
Overall, a great introductory film to this new era, A tier.
Did you just suggest putting a gem like this movie in damn A tier?
It's a solo adventure. Whereas we're used to seeing Godzilla duke it out with other kaiju. It drags the film down.
The OG film was a solo adventure, and that film is goated.
Well, where would you rank this film, Sleepy Joe?
Obviously, G-tier, the movie has everything needed for a perfect Godzilla experience.
Barack, I think Joe's dementia is kicking in again. Is he off his meds?
Joe, ain't no way this is a G-tier film. Its drawbacks keep it from reaching G-tier.
So it's A tier then?
A tier is too low for this. S tier is a perfect fit. The film is almost perfect, but has a flaw or two that holds it back.
I'm not settling for anything but G-tier.
Well, looks like none of us want to budge, so we need a tiebreaker.
Barack, don't you dare invite him. You know what he's going to do if he sees our Showa rankings.
And he knows more about Godzilla than all three of us. I'm messaging him.
I can already hear the cries of anger as he sees this tier list.
Yo, Barack, how's it hanging? Just finished moving into my place a few days ago, plus a sick new gaming room.
That's great, George. We're doing a tier list right now, and we need a tiebreaker vote.
What are we ranking?
All the Godzilla movies. We're doing the Heisei Era right now.
Hop in my stream, George.
What in the hell are these goofy-ass Showa rankings? Why are over half of them below B tier? Are you fucking nuts?
George, just give us the tiebreaker.
Shut it, pig. Go back to your bucket of lard. Democracy truly is dead if this is where you place the Showa films. I'm disappointed in all of you.
We know we just started the Heisei Era, and we can't place Return of Godzilla. Where would you rank it?
Where did everyone else want to put it?
I wanted S tier. Donald was thinking A, and Joe was G.
Return of Godzilla was an almost perfect start to the Heisei Era. The only complaints I hear are the design of Godzilla and that there's no kaiju for him to fight. With that in mind, I'm siding with Barack S tier.
You've
No.
got
Let's
to
go.
be shitting me.
I think I'm going to stay so you guys don't mess up any more rankings.
Much appreciated, George.
And Donald, I better not hear any of those jokes out of your mouth.
You just increased your chances of hearing them because now the thought is there.
Moving on, let's talk about Godzilla versus Biollante.
The themes regarding bioengineering are pretty thought-provoking for the time, though I found myself feeling confused as the plots and subplots became more complex.
The fast-paced action is well done and it keeps you engaged, and the race to obtain G-cells is fascinating even if it's confusing at times.
The film shined light on how Godzilla's existence impacts the world at large, both for good and bad, culminating in some interesting discourse.
I can apply the same to Donald's existence and how he's failed as a human being.
I'm a golden example of what a human being should be. I have solved numerous problems plaguing our great country, and I will be remembered for that.
You'll certainly be remembered as an example of a president.
Sure, let's look up to the president whose breakfast was drone striking the Middle East.
And inciting a damn insurrection is better?
Hey, George, what date in your presidency am I thinking of right now?
Another crude 9/11 joke. How on brand of you, Donald?
Love you too.
Back on topic, where do we think this film goes?
The monster action between each other and the military is well done and hold up nicely even today.
The human side of things is balanced out well, even if it's a bit confusing.
All of the characters are played well, but Dr. Shiragami and Kuraki are the best in my opinion.
More of a Miki Sagusa man myself due to her involvement in later entries, but overall, Godzilla versus Biollante was a very good film. I'm thinking an A tier.
I don't object to that.
No complaints here. A tier works.
Okay, what film is next?
Godzilla versus King Ghidorah.
Oh, I
fucking
fucking
hate
love
this
this
movie.
movie.
Pause. The fuck did Trump just say?
Is it wrong to share your personal opinion now?
How else would we know who the assholes are?
I can't find a flaw in his logic.
How could you hate this movie?
Call it a hunch, but I've got a good guess why he hates it.
Take your best shot, Georgie boy.
Something to do with the lack of stars and stripes in a certain world position.
I'm not even going to try unpacking that. Make of it what you will.
The monster action is stellar and explosive, even if it's more brief.
King Ghidorah's modernized customized design is sleek as hell and still looks fantastic. And Mecha King Ghidorah is awesome, even if his screen time was minimal.
Still doesn't excuse its more fantastical story. I don't care what your arguments are.
Regardless if a take is bad or not, I see where Donald is coming from. The story kind of nosedives if you examine it too much.
The time travel trope as a whole is hard to do well, not impossible, but hard, and this film handled it bad.
The time travel wasn't executed well, I won't deny that, but the movie's best aspects are definitely the action and the relationship between Godzilla and Japan.
Overall, still a good entry, and Ghidorah was a welcome sight, but the human side of the film holds it back. I think a B tier would be good.
More like D for dog water.
Democracy, Donnie. It's going in B tier.
Like 2016 and 2020, Donald again loses the popular vote.
This tier list is rigged and riddled with fraud.
Cope, Seethe, Mall, go hold another press conference at Four Seasons Landscaping.
Goddamn!
Joe out of nowhere with the left hook, ladies and gentlemen.
Moving on to the Heisei Godzilla versus Mothra.
Hey, Donald.
What is it?
You're a perv.
Fuck off.
Fairies?
Fairies.
The story is very good, and Batra is arguably one of the best kaiju to come out of the Heisei era.
The film leans harder on the fantastical rather than political side, and I felt that the characters talked way too much instead of having the film speak for itself.
Despite a lacking human story, the monster action is quality Heisei goodness, though the final battle suffers due to beams. A lot of beams.
My vote goes to A tier. Batra is a nice opposite to Mothra in the mythology, and Godzilla is a nice big antagonist that gets Mothra and Batra to team up.
Sounds fair to me.
Definitely a step down in terms of story, but Akira's score and the fast pace still make it a good film.
All right, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. Now, this is how you make a damn good Godzilla film.
This film's got all the qualifications for a great watch. Seeing as Toho wanted to end the era with this, they decided to make it a good one.
The story is super well written, the characters are good, and none feel left out. And the monster action is top-notch. Everything about this movie is balanced out well.
The monster designs are great as ever. Rodin's new look was a well-needed makeover. And while I wasn't too fond of Mechagodzilla's redesign, it's grown on me.
Also, who can forget Baby Godzilla? The little guy is adorable with a lot of personality, and the scene and score when he leaves with Godzilla tugs at your heart.
The film, in my opinion, is everything that makes the Heisei era good. Amazing monster action, characters you can connect with on an emotional level, and great stories to take you out of reality for a brief moment. I'm saying S tier.
Whack that shit in S tier.
S tier, baby.
Unanimous S tier. Sadly, we're covering Godzilla versus Space Godzilla now.
I don't even hate this movie. I just feel bad for it at this point.
If Mechagodzilla 2 is everything right, then this film is everything wrong.
Space Godzilla has a nice design that definitely has its fans, though Mogera is a straight downgrade from Mechagodzilla.
Space Godzilla went through that Giuliani development.
Twisted and corrupted by the black hole of Trump influence.
Hey, man, I thought he was pretty reasonable.
Bro really just called Mr. Trial by Combat Hair Dye Sweating Giuliani reasonable.
At least I had him when he was going through his political arc. Donald got him in his crazy uncle at Thanksgiving arc.
Hey, George, remember this scene in Godzilla versus Space Godzilla?
Huh? Which one?
Give me a sec.
Oh, damn you, Donald.
Let's move on, please. We're almost done here.
There is some good action between the monsters and military. Space Godzilla is a welcome addition to the kaiju roster and some okay human characters.
This film also truly showed the development that Miki Sagosa underwent throughout the Heisei films.
I think a C tier works best. It's definitely not the best Heisei film, but the Heisei era had a standard of quality that keeps them above the lower tiers.
Works for me.
I'm fine with C tier.
At last, Godzilla versus Destroya, one of the best Godzilla films ever made.
This film's action is incredible. Destroya truly feels like the end-all be all of this era.
The final villain being birthed from the very weapon that destroyed Godzilla was a big brain move and brings the era full circle. If Toho had ended here and Godzilla was never made again, I would still adore it.
Akira's final rendition of Godzilla's theme really tells you that something is wrong with Godzilla. And Requiem is God tier and never fails to make me cry.
The idea of Godzilla's death is given the proper respect that it deserves. Junior's death was so sad, and you could feel Godzilla's pain. And when he died, even the humans seemed sad.
Despite Godzilla terrorizing their people and cities, they couldn't help but seem sad since he was part of their identity as a nation.
And even with Godzilla being the focus, there is still enough dedicated to the human side as well.
Mickey's character is wrapped up well. Bringing back Momoko Kochi as Emiko really cements the horrors of atomic power compared to the new generation.
Honestly, I can't find anything to criticize about this film. It's just that good.
Every aspect of this film was handled with such care and reverence. The monsters, the action, the characters, the story. Godzilla vs. Destroya is a perfect conclusion. And because of that, the only place it truly deserves to be is G tier.
All facts, no printer.
Couldn't have said it better even if I tried, Obama.
And thus concludes the Heisei era, a spectacular era for our favorite king of the monsters.
Overall, the consistency of this era was great. It had its rough spots, but this era has endless rewatchability as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, wait a minute. Obama, I just realized we're missing some films on here.
Wait, what? Which ones?
It looks like Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, an invasion of Astro Monster.
Let the viewers decide. Tell us in the comments where we should put these two Showa films.